Most people think a successful disagreement is one where they win. They believe they've proven their point and preserved their relationships. Both sides have smart advocates and catastrophic blind spots. The real battle is between being right and staying connected. Where do you stand? By the end of this, you might change your mind. The most common approach is direct, brutally efficient. You see a problem, you name the problem. A colleague misses a deadline, you tell them they've put the project at risk. Your partner spends too much money, you show them the bank statement and demand an explanation. The logic is compelling. The fastest path between 2 points is a straight line. Why waste time with ambiguity and hints? Unspoken resentments are a poison. They accumulate silently, turning affection into a kind of low-grade contempt. A direct, honest conversation is the antidote. It's a controlled burn that prevents a forest fire. You get the issue out on the table, solve it, and move on. This approach values truth over comfort. It assumes adults can handle frank feedback. It assumes the goal is to fix the problem as quickly as possible. And in a world of limited time and resources, this feels like the only responsible way to operate. The person who practices this believes they are showing respect. They are treating you like an equal, capable of hearing difficult things without falling apart. That sounds convincing. But there is a problem. A huge one. This model completely ignores human biology. When you confront someone directly with a criticism, you are perceived as a threat. The rational brain, the part of them you want to talk to, goes offline. What comes online is the ancient primitive hardware that handles survival. The heart rate climbs. Blood pressure spikes. The mind floods with defensive justifications and counterattacks. That's the tight knot in your chest when your boss says, "We need to talk." You've just experienced an amygdala hijack. The conversation is over before it begins. The other person is now incapable of hearing your brilliant logic. They are only hearing an attack. Their entire system is geared toward one of 3 responses. Fight back, flee the conversation, or freeze. Your attempt at efficient problem solving has just created a bigger problem. You wanted to fix a spreadsheet error. You've instead created a workplace rival who now sees you as an adversary. You wanted to discuss a budget. You've instead made your partner feel criticized and unsafe. Your truth landed like a punch. And people who get punched, punch back. Or they learn to avoid the person who throws the punches. The relationship erodes either way. And yet, the other side has its own blind spot. If directness is a disaster, surely the answer is softness. Empathy. Connection first. This approach prioritizes the relationship above everything. Before you mention the problem, you affirm the person. You validate their feelings. You create a pillow of psychological safety so the difficult message can land softly. Instead of, "You missed the deadline," it's, "I know how swamped you've been lately, and I really appreciate how hard you're working. I'm a little concerned about the project timeline. Could we brainstorm a way to get back on track?" Instead of, "You spent too much," it's, "I want us to feel like a team with our finances. Lately, I've been feeling anxious about our spending. Can we look at it together and make a plan that makes us both feel secure?" This feels better. Kinder. It acknowledges that you're dealing with a human, a person with feelings and pressures of their own. The goal is to solve the problem together, as allies against the problem. You preserve the bond. You build trust. You can say almost anything to someone if they know you are fundamentally on their side. But this has a dark side too. Where does it end? At what point does creating safety become walking on eggshells? At what point does validating feelings become enabling dysfunction? If you have to spend 20 minutes soothing someone's ego before you can have a 5-minute conversation about a real issue, you're building a system of profound inefficiency. This can quickly descend into a new kind of passive aggression. The soft approach can be used to manipulate. It can feel condescending, like you're handling a child instead of talking to an equal. More dangerously, it often avoids the core issue entirely. You have a conversation that feels good, all connection and validation, but the deadline is still missed. The account is still overdrawn. You've preserved the feeling of a relationship while allowing the foundation of it to rot. The problem grows in the dark, nurtured by a conspiracy of silence. You chose comfort over truth. And comfort is a debt that always comes due, with interest. Eventually, the unspoken thing becomes so large it suffocates the entire relationship. So one side risks blowing up the relationship with honesty, and the other risks letting it die from 1,000 unaddressed cuts. This is the core tension. Is there a third path? The most emotionally intelligent people treat a disagreement like a bomb disposal expert treats a bomb. They respect its power to do damage. They are methodical, and they have a sequence. First, they separate the person from the problem. This is the crucial move. You are my ally. The problem is our enemy. We are on the same side of the table, looking at the issue together. This isn't just a mind trick, it's a fundamental reframing of the entire interaction. How do they do this? They start by diagnosing the disagreement. Most people get this wrong. They think all disagreements are about the facts. They aren't. There are 3 types. Disagreements about what happened, disagreements about process. A fight over one is impossible to solve if it's actually about another. Imagine 2 co-founders arguing. One says, "We lost a major client because you were rude in the meeting." The other says, "I was being direct, they were wasting our time." This looks like a disagreement about what happened. It is, but underneath it's a conflict of values. One values client harmony above all, the other values efficiency and a no-nonsense approach. They will argue forever about what was said in that meeting. An emotionally intelligent person bypasses that. They might say, "Let's put a pin in what happened in that specific meeting. It seems like we have different philosophies on how to handle demanding clients. Can we talk about that?" They elevate the conversation from blame to policy, from the past to the future. This is where another key skill comes in, stating the other person's case in a way they would endorse. You have to show you understand their position, maybe even better than they do. So, from your perspective, if we let clients push us around, we lose respect, our margins shrink, and we end up serving people we don't even like. We're building a culture of being pushovers. Is that about right? When you do this, something magical happens. The defensiveness collapses. The person feels seen, heard, understood. For the first time, their brain isn't fighting you, it's agreeing with you. They've just moved from the other side of the table to your side. They are now open to hearing your perspective because you've proven you're capable of understanding theirs. You've paid a deposit of empathy into the relational bank account. Now you can make a withdrawal. Now and only now can you introduce your perspective. You do this with I statements, but with a critical difference. Most people use I statements as a disguised you statement. "I feel like you're not listening to me" is just a polite way of saying you're not listening. It's still an accusation. The truly skilled communicator talks about their own experience. They own their story. When we were in the meeting, I found myself getting really anxious. I was worried we were about to lose a client that represents 20% of our revenue. I have a story in my head that if we lose them, we might have to do layoffs, and that terrifies me. See the difference? There is nothing to argue with. You're not accusing them of being rude. You're stating your own emotional reality. It is a fact. An irrefutable one. You are giving them data about your internal world. This invites curiosity instead of defensiveness. Their response is more likely to be, "Wow, I didn't realize you were feeling that," instead of, "No, I wasn't rude." What if they say, "Your anxiety is your problem, we need to be tough"? This is the moment of truth. An unskilled person gets re-triggered and the cycle starts over. The skilled person stays with it. They might go back to a shared goal. I agree with you 100% that we need to be tough. We both want a resilient, profitable company. My concern is that there might be a way to be tough on the problem while being easy on the people, especially the ones paying our bills. I wonder if we can find a way to do both. Notice the language. I wonder if. Perhaps it's an invitation. It opens a door. It doesn't build a wall. They are constantly looking for the yes inside the no. They are turning a conflict into a creative brainstorming session. The question is no longer who was right. The question becomes, how can we solve this in a way that respects both our values, your need for efficiency and my need for relational stability? This transforms the entire dynamic. It's no longer a zero-sum game. It's a puzzle you are solving together. The energy shifts from combat to creation. This takes enormous patience. It feels slower, but it's faster because you only have to solve the problem once. You are fixing the issue and strengthening the relationship at the same time. The direct approach often fixes the issue while weakening the relationship, ensuring more problems will arise later. The soft approach weakens the relationship by ignoring the issue, ensuring the problem will get worse. This process is about separating intent from impact. The other person may have had the best intentions. They intended to be efficient. They intended to be direct. The skilled negotiator grants them that. I know you didn't intend to alienate the client. Granting good intent is disarming. It costs you nothing. Then you state the impact. I know that wasn't your intent. The impact, however, was that they called me this morning to say they're reviewing their options. You are holding both realities at once. Your good intent and the negative impact. Both are true. Now we have a new problem to solve. How do we align our intent with our impact in the future? This is the work. This is the art of navigating human relationships. It requires you to hold your own perspective lightly. It demands you become genuinely curious about an experience of the world that is different from your own. It asks you to value the relationship as much as you value being right, maybe more. Because in the end, a long list of arguments you've won is a poor substitute for a small circle of people who trust you enough to tell you when you're wrong. So, where do you draw the line? At what point is this patient, empathetic process simply enabling someone who is unwilling to meet you halfway? When does collaborative problem solving become you doing all the emotional labor for someone who refuses to grow? And on the other side, when is your commitment to radical honesty just a noble-sounding excuse for a lack of social skill? When is it just a way to avoid the hard, messy work of actually connecting with another human being? What do you think?